Oh wait, do you need to hit record anything on my side?
We don't want
I
to
know.
We're dedicated, yes, to our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville. Futurama.
No, man, we're good. Thanks.
Sorry.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Rattledge. And tonight, our favorite show is Stargirl, brought to you by the good people at Belanti Productions, Mad Ghost Productions, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Television Studios, and Warner Brothers Television Studios Distribution. Joining me to talk about this, almost a year ago now, he was on here to talk about the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths, and he gave me what for. He said, quit picking on Batgirl. Well, now he's back, but I'm going to be much nicer to Stargirl. We're going to have a very pleasant conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Warlock and Thanos podcast, it is Al Sedano. How the hell are you?
Stargirl, nothing but Stargirl. Wait, which show is this again? This is part of the Star Wars thing, right?
Stargirl, based on the novel on Disney+.
That's it. That's the one. Okay, I got mixed up. Sorry about that.
So, last night, myself and Christian talked Stars and Stripes, which is what this was based on. It was Jeff Johns' inaugural work in the comic books field, and the show, having read the first 6 issues, really is ripped from those pages. Did you happen to read the comic book? How familiar are you with this character?
Pretty familiar. I did read. I bought them as they came out, so I have I had the entire series. I've been selling some of it because I figure I have DC Universe. I'll just read it there. I don't think I've read it in like at least a decade, maybe longer. But I remember like the broad strokes of the series, and a lot of that did seem to be in the show. And I also was reading her adventures going on after that when she was in the JSA series. So.
And what was your opinion of what you read, what you remember? What do you think about this character?
Oh, I liked her. I liked her as a legacy. I like legacy characters anyway, so I liked her as a legacy character. I liked the evolution she got. She starts off as quite a bit of a snotty teenager in the Stars and Stripes series.
Yeah, she does.
But over time, and especially over the JSA series, she definitely matures.
Yeah.
And becomes a much more likable and much more heroic for the right reasons character.
Yeah, Chris and I were talking about it last night. She really gives Pat the business in this book, and she's not likable in the first 2 or 3 issues. And she gets okay by the time you get to issue 6, and I assume by the time the run ends at issue, I think it's 14.
Yeah.
She's probably more tolerable, and then as you said, as she goes on in the JSA, she becomes very likable. But I watched the television show first before I read the book, and I have to say, they went out of their way to make her more likable from the get-go in the show. It was
definitely, needed.
Yeah, I was gonna say this was a concerted effort to rehabilitate this character right from the start. There's still that natural antagonism between her and Pat, but she's motivated for different reasons, not just because she thinks he's the worst person ever. In the show, and we'll break this down, but in the show, there's definitely the "you're not my dad" thing, but she isn't nearly as bad to Pat as she is in the comics.
Yeah, no, they definitely flesh out the other people in the family more, so it does make everyone's position makes more sense and does seem more reasonable in the show than it did in the comic. Definitely. The comic, from what I remember, her mom and the little brother had little to do with it. And
I was going to say, there was no little brother introduced in the first 6 issues of this, so if he comes along, I don't know if he comes along later, but he is not in there. Okay.
Because they kind of imply where the show kind of implies at the end of the season that he might take over Stripe.
Okay.
But since the series got canceled, he kind of ends up just not showing up ever again.
Gotcha. So the little brother is a real character.
Yeah, he just was much more tangential. He had a chance if Stars and Stripes had continued on, he would have become a much more major character. Might even still been around in DC Comics.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't, so they only brought her over to really over to her, and sometimes Stripe over to JSA.
Did the book not do well? Is that why it was canceled, or did Jeff Johns want to go and do other things?
I'm assuming it didn't do well.
Okay.
And that's why it got canceled, but I don't recall 100%, but I want to say that's why it just got canceled. It wasn't doing well enough.
So here's the premise of the show based on the comic. 1 decade after nearly all the Justice Society of America were killed in battle against the Injustice Society of America, high school student Courtney Whitmore discovers the cosmic staff of Starman, and upon learning that her stepfather Pat Dugan used to be Starman's sidekick, becomes the inspiration for a whole new generation of superheroes. Yes, Pat Dugan was Stripesy. He was the sidekick / mechanic / driver to Starman, who dies at the beginning of the show. And the implication from the start of the show is that Starman is her father. And so, in the first episode of Stargirl, we see, they move to, just as in the comic, they move to Blue Valley, Nebraska, and she is nosing about the basement where he has a bunch of his old paraphernalia and memorabilia stored, and it calls to her. It called to her, Al Sedano. I gotta ask you about that. The cosmic staff called to her, and she takes it out of the box, and she kind of sort of struggles with it, but not really. She kind of gets a feel for it, and it's like half magic broomstick and half magic wand. And as she starts to nose around and Pat starts to fill in the blanks for her, she takes it upon herself to become Stargirl, picking up the legacy of Starman, as she thinks she is fulfilling the role of whom she believes to be her father. And that's what
the family tradition.
Yes, and up to this point, I mean, we're only still in the first episode here, but while she's not the snotty brat that she is in the comics, she's still very much, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do nothing. There's no gymnast team here. This is the worst move ever. And shortly after we turn the page on that, she finds the staff and we're off and running in this other direction. She becomes obsessed with this really quickly. I mean, I like it as motivation. I think there's better motivation here than in the comic, where she was just doing it to annoy Pat to one degree or another. Here, she is like, I'm going to do this whether you like it or not. And he ends up getting into the Stripe robot that he made out of car parts for the same reason he doesn't in the comic, to make sure that she doesn't get killed.
Yeah, protect her.
Yeah.
And I do like the motivation a bit here, because it does kind of make sense for a teenager who's been dragged away from everything they know. I mean, like you said, she gets obsessed with it. It's really all it's a control thing. It's the only thing she has power over. It's the only thing she can do about her life. She can't, make them move. She can't get she can't make her mom and Pat get divorced. She can't go back to where she was with her friends in her life. But she has the staff, and the staff listens to her. So she has that.
And it's fun, It's fun to fly around on a staff. It's fun, They show her in the beginning to be a capable athlete. So this isn't coming out of the clear blue sky, and the staff helps her. It aids her in the way that the implication is the cosmic converter belt aided the character. Where it's finding a way to work with the host in a kind of a symbiotic way. So I really like this. So talk to me about. And we'll get through some of the more, plot points here, but what did you think of Breck Basinger as Courtney Whitmore?
I liked her as Courtney. Definitely likable enough, even though she was being bratty at times. Definitely likable enough. Definitely looks like an actual teenager. I didn't feel like it was someone who's 40 years old playing 20.
Does she not have the chubbiest cheeks you've ever seen in Hollywood?
Yeah. No, she still has the baby fat. It doesn't look like she's, ready for college yet. So she does look like a teen girl. So that's perfect.
She doesn't walk on the scene and she's got a full beard and she's supposed to be playing a 12-year-old.
Exactly. It's like, okay, you're actually a teenage girl. Cool. I can see you sound like a teenage girl to me. I mean, granted, I don't have a teenage daughter, so I don't know what. It's not like I hang out with teenage girls. I can't say I know what they sound like 100%, but it was believable enough to me.
Yeah, I thought it's very hard, I think, to sometimes hit the pitch for a teenager, right, to where they're both likable and earnest and believable, but still have some faults, so there's drama in the series. And I have to say, the CW kind of fault, for me, it's got some hits, it's got some misses, it's got some triumphs, it falls down at times. I have to say, this is one of the best written shows they've done. I was really impressed.
Yeah, no, I like this. One of my problems... No, by the way, we should probably mention for anyone who hasn't watched it yet, this is, while it's one of the CW DC superhero shows, it does not take place on the same world as all the others. So, there is no even reference to The Flash or Supergirl or Black Lightning or Arrow or anything. They are a completely different world, has nothing to do with them. So there's that, first of all. But like you said about the writing, a lot of times, now, granted, it could be my perception of these things, and some of them I haven't watched yet, but like I see these shows coming out, and a lot of them seem like it's going to focus more on the teen drama part, and it's not so much that stuff. Like the Runaway show, I haven't watched it, so I can't say for certain, but when I see things about it, it's like, are they still going to school? Like, when do they run away? Like,
yeah, that first season, it takes the entire season for them to run away.
Yeah, I'm like, so for me, for a lot of these, like, look, in the 90s, I enjoyed Smallville, partially because that's all we had. And it was decent enough at times. I thought it was better in the beginning and somewhat at the end than in the middle. Dragged a bit. But, I mean, yes, it was going to be almost, the premise of Smallville was basically he's almost Superman, but not quite. And we're almost going to get the Justice League, but not quite. And that was fine. But now at this point, forgetting quality of shows, whether they're good or not, you think they're good or not, we have The Flash. When you go to watch The Flash, he is The Flash. He's not kind of The Flash or might be The Flash and eventually after the show ends. He's The Flash. We have people traveling through time. He is Black, the one guy is Black Lightning. We had Green Arrow. We had these. So I don't feel the need to have these shows where they're going to kind of go to it, but not really. They're going to focus more on the real stuff instead of like the stuff it's based on. So I like that this did have some of the teen drama stuff, but it didn't overshadow everything else. It didn't overshadow her becoming Stargirl.
They integrated the teen drama into the action. So, for example, the school bully, the teen queen of the school is, as she is in the comics, she's a supervillain.
Yeah,
she's
it's
Shiv.
part of it. Yeah, it's all part of it. The guy, there's issues like, oh, my ex-boyfriend and all that. Well, it's because, and then she ends up becoming Wildcat, and he's Brainwave Jr., and it's all part of it. So it becomes part of the whole story, which I prefer. I don't want that to be a new separate character that's just there to be a pain in the ass on high school.
Yeah, I agree. I felt that they never really lost sight of the plot, that, you have this town, the upper crust of the town are all supervillains, and they're working towards a nefarious plot, which we'll get to it at the end, but it's probably one of my favorite lines of the entire show, where at the end you have Dr. Midnight 2, and she's like reading the manifesto, and she goes, I think we're on the wrong side. I died laughing.
Yeah, she's like, wait, are we against this? This sounds good. Yeah.
Why are we stopping any of this?
Yeah, until you get to the point where they cross the line.
Right.
Which is what you need to do for those things. It's like the Ra's al Ghul thing. It's like, well, a lot of his points make good sense. And I'm going to kill 3/4 of the planet. It's like, okay, there you go. Now you...
Yeah.
There's the problem. The mass murder.
It's the Thanos thing. It's, I saw my planet get destroyed because we wasted our resources, etc. And so I'm going to seek to correct a major, wrong in the universe by eliminating half of it, and that way nobody starves. Yeah. And it's like, well, yes, but you can't kill billions of people. See,
and eventually people will keep growing again. They're going to make new people. It's not like you're finding ways to stop the problems. You're just pushing it back.
One of the things I really like about this show as it progresses is that she's not a fully formed Stargirl right from the beginning. She's got the look, she's got the weapons, she's got Pat kind of in her corner because he's sort of trapped into this role of I can't really stop you, and I'm not ready to tell you your mother that I was once a superhero sidekick. So there's a lot of drama in the secrecy. But what I like about the show is it takes her a while to really master being Stargirl almost to the end of the show, and not without help. Like, she gets her ass kicked through most of this series.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't have a tremendous amount of victories, and this is what leads her to believe that she needs backup, and that's how she ends up recruiting the Legacy JSA characters. We have Wildcat 2, and we'll talk about these each in kind. We have Dr. Midnight 2, and these are two young ladies who are outcasts in the school that she sits with at lunch. We have Hourman 2, which is the son of the original Hourman. Of course, he doesn't know that just yet. And as I said, I like the fact that very early on in a lot of the plot of this thing from the first handful of episodes is I'm not as good as I think I am. I'm getting my ass kicked. I clearly need help. And so the action then focuses on recruiting these outcasts, and forming this family, this team. What did you think of all that?
No, I like that. I mean, yes, she has the gymnastic ability, so at least she knows how to dodge. So we can believe her not getting killed. But yeah, she's not immediately able to beat everyone up. And with the exception of with Yolanda as Wildcat, where the costume magically gives her the powers, they're really not that great at fighting.
Right.
I mean, Dr. Midnight doesn't really just because she's Dr. Midnight, she doesn't actually get any real abilities of being able to beat anybody up. She's gonna actually have to show her learning that, because she just has the goggles which give her information. Because I was a little concerned when they first did that, and she got the Wildcat costume, it gave her powers. I was like, so is that what they're gonna say? If the costume gives everyone powers?
Right, everyone's Iron Man.
Yeah, because I'm like, Wildcat was Wildcat because he was the original. I mean, granted, it's comics, but still, in the original comics, the original Wildcat was the retired heavyweight champion of the world, and he just retired because no one was able to beat him. He kind of got bored of it. Mm-hmm. He was that good. So, but at least that's the only one. So,
right. I think with Wildcat, they kind of had to make it a conceit. She is a high school girl, and even though they gave her boxing as a trait, if you don't give her some extra powers, she's kind of going to end up being useless.
Well, yeah, and she didn't pick up boxing until after she became Wildcat, and she is based on an actual. They're all pretty much based on actual characters. She is based on the second Wildcat from Infinity Inc., who actually was. I forget how she got them. I think she was a mutant.
Okay,
but she actually had cat-like powers.
Yeah, it's a silly scene where
they jump-started it basically.
It's a silly scene where they give her the costume. And she, and of course it doesn't fit her, it's baggy and everything. And she has the line, she's like, you get to wear a cute outfit, and I get to wear this trash bag. And then she puts the helmet on, and the helmet magically makes it fit her, and she's now all lithe and Catwoman-like. And I kind of, it was one of those where I'm like, we gotta move the show on, it's fine.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they didn't do it for everybody.
Right.
So, because, I mean, Hourman, the power comes from, eating the pills, the Miracle, or the turn, wherever they want to do it. I think, no, it's not pills here. It's the turning the hourglass.
Correct. But
that's still part of what Hourman is, so that makes sense at least.
So I'm not familiar with the JSA, and I laughed my ass off, and you would roll your eyes at me if you want about this, but when I heard Hourman, his big power is for 1 hour each day, he gets super strength, and I kind of went tee-hee. Like, is that a real thing?
Yes. It's supposed to be he actually developed the thing that makes it, gives him superhuman abilities for an hour. So he made it himself. So, yeah. And of course, they did a lot of drug use with that because originally it was a pill.
Oh, okay, gotcha. It makes a little bit more sense when it's drugs and you don't want, and so there's limitations on it because you don't want the abuse and all of that. And I can see that being a thing in the comics. This. It's one of those where I wish I had been on set the first time he has to read the lines about his power set, because how do you do that and not laugh?
Yeah. But it's one of those things like, okay, let's go with it.
Yeah.
And it gives them at least, especially for a show for a TV show, it does, because it's easier to do time in a TV show, seeing people doing something. So it does it helps give a sense of drama. He can only do stuff for an hour. Once the hour's over, he's normal. So it's like, if he's up against Solomon Grundy, in the end, it's like, look, you got 10 minutes, kid, and then you're paced.
Yeah, and there's a sense of urgency involved in this. So, I bought into it after the fact. It was the initial explanation where I was kind of like, comics are silly.
Yes.
Wait
till they get to the pen.
I really like Dr. Midnight, too. I like the way that they used Beth, because the setup with Beth is that she's lonely, and she has no friends outside of her parents, and even her parents are like, go make friends. You know?
Get a life, kid.
Right. And so the Goggles and her bond, and, you know, and the Goggles do bond with her. The Goggles become a part of her, and, you know, later on in the series where Pat's like, everything, it's all too dangerous, we have to take it all back, you can't, you know, put these kids in danger, and she's like, but he's my friend, you can't, you know, like that broke my heart. Yeah. I enjoyed of all of the extra JSA members, Angelica Washington as Beth. I thought, you know, she much like Breck Basinger, I thought she played the character with a lot of earnest, and she's really super likable. And even though she has some purposely annoying qualities about her, I never got annoyed by her. I always thought she was charming.
Agreed. And I liked Henry Thomas, which I was amused by. That it's Elliot Meaty as the voice of Charles McNider, the original Dr. Midnight.
Oh, that's who that was? Yeah,
that's Henry Thomas. That's if you watch E.T. when you see little Elliot, that's him.
Oh wow! How about that?
Oh, and speaking of the cast, by the way, the one thing I had a problem with is the mom. Because damn it, Amy Smart. Now I feel old. Because that was the girlfriend from Road Trip.
Okay.
If you remember Road Trip.
Vaguely. I knew she looked familiar when I looked up the cast before we talked about the show tonight. So I knew she was Amy Smart, but yeah, I get that.
And now it's like,
time betrays us all.
It's like you're the no. No, I'm old.
We'll talk a little bit more about Wildcat and Hourman, just because both of them are very angsty. I think one of them very much deserved. Well, both of them kind of deservedly so. I think they both have their own stuff going on. One of them was just more annoying about it than the other.
He was a little too obsessive.
Yeah, he was a little too angsty, Hourman. You know, it was for a while that they did a really good job of not hitting the same note with every character, to where every episode they're saying the same things. They would change things up, they would add things to it, take things away from it, so even if it was a similar beat, it was dissimilar enough to keep it interesting. Except for Rick, who for the first couple of episodes, you see him is brooding and angry and wants to kill everybody. And it got old real quick.
And that was before he found out his parents were killed.
Yeah.
That's just his default setting.
Yeah, he was a little frustrating. I liked Yvette Monreal as Yolanda Montez. Her origin as to why she's an outcast in school was heartbreaking, and like I have a 9-year-old daughter, and it's like
the thought of that scares you.
Please don't be that stupid.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. But yeah, you could, and it's kind of funny, like considering the fact that her issue is something she knew about from the beginning, as opposed to he didn't know about his parents dying until later, and you'd think she'd be the one with the much more one-note anger about it, and yet he seems to be the one. It's like, you just found out. Like, I understand being upset at your parents being killed, but you just found out.
And it's funny, they do a double turn with these two towards the end, because they'll introduce Brainwave Jr., who is Henry King Jr. In the show. They'll have Hourman kind of have an avenging moment for his parents when he fights Solomon Grundy at the end, and they do this double turn to where she knows Brainwave Senior is using some sort of mind trick to disguise himself as Henry so that he can learn the whereabouts of where the rest of the JSA members are. And she figures it out quickly enough that she kills him, but she kills him while he's still in the guise of Henry Jr. And all season, she'd been wanting to get revenge for him sharing the picture of her chest. And I'd been reading that, like, they plan, in season 2, they plan to go pretty dark with her. It's not every day you murder people, and it can have an effect on you. Being a 15, 16-year-old kid and all.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
You have that, and then juxtaposed with Hourman 2, who's beating the living piss out of Solomon Grundy, who... I'm going to get your opinion on this. So in the comic, he's a walking, talking zombie Solomon Grundy. He isn't born on a Monday. And then in this one, he's a mindless monster, but he isn't born on a Monday. What gives, man?
Solomon Grundy, because part of this has to do with part of the story of this. All this goes back to the Starman series, and from the comics. And Solomon Grundy played a part in Starman for a while, and it's kind of revealed that like Solomon Grundy gets killed a lot because he's not really alive. And the way it works out is like each time he dies, when he comes back, he's slightly different. Sometimes he's more intelligent, sometimes he's less intelligent, sometimes he's even somewhat friendly.
Huh.
So this is one of the versions. So there have been different versions. It's almost like the Hulk, like there's like all these different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of have different versions of the Hulk if you want to. It's kind of like that. So this Solomon Grundy is almost like a really really dumb version of the old Green Hulk. He's just a big animal, and I think that's kind of the thing that makes him feel mercy over her, feeling mercy for this guy who has no problem killing people, and he knows what that means, and he understands. It's almost like Solomon Grundy doesn't realize what he's doing. He's just an attack animal.
Right.
He's just a dumb animal being trained and being used. Go kill that. Okay. And he, he doesn't say okay. He's like, Arr! And he kills the thing because that's what he's told to do. He's kept in a cage. He's beaten. I mean, and part of me is hoping that they will bring in Jade next season.
Yes, Jade had some sort of relationship with Solomon Grundy, correct?
There was a version of Solomon Grundy that basically, even though Solomon Grundy hated Green Lantern, he loved Jade. He followed her around like a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that kind of version. It's like like I said, there were different versions of it. So I'm kind of hoping maybe this will go into that. We'll get like Jade showing up and Solomon Grundy following her around like a little puppy.
We haven't talked about Luke Wilson. We probably should. I thought, Luke Wilson did a really good job of playing I think it was a complex portrayal. I think he's wanting to do the right thing. I think he's pulled in a lot of different directions. I think he feels like survivor's guilt. I mean, I've never thought Luke Wilson was a terribly deep actor, but I'll tell you what, man, a lot of the show doesn't work if he's not working, and he's great. Yeah, well, those are the two leads. It's like it's based on Stars and Stripe. That's what it is. Stargirl and Stripe. That's those are the pillars of the show. If they don't work, the show doesn't work. Yeah.
And yeah, he does. He plays. He does that. He does the guilt a lot. Very well. You could tell his guilt about not telling his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see his enjoyment of being back in that life of it, though. Still.
Yeah, he almost feels guilty about enjoying it too.
Yeah, and because he's it's now I think because of the age difference now. He was always older than Starman, but I mean when he Star Spangled Kid, but it was only like 5 years or something.
Right.
Like the kid was 15, he was 20. We're not talking much of an age difference. He was older, but not that much older. But now he has a whole different perspective on it. He's not just a stepfather; he's a father.
Right.
So he understands that fully.
It was interesting the way that it played out because they say they did the move to Blue Valley because the mom got the job with a New America, whatever the company was called, that was run by the bad guys.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a part of him. Oh, you know what it was? It was he went to Blue Valley when he met her, and he was trying to track down members of the Injustice Society, and then he lost track of them, and then he met her and just gave up altogether. That was what the story there was.
Yeah, and then when he gave up, of course, that's when the trail picks up.
Sure, it's always
always when you stop looking.
That's right. So let's talk about some of the bad guys here. We have Brainwave Jr., who spends most of the series at his father's bedside. Early on in the show, Brainwave fights Stargirl and Stripes, and through sheer happenstance and accident, they hit Brainwave with something or other from the staff, and he goes into a coma. And he's in a coma for at least 2/3 of the series.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah, and so his son, who he's mentally abusive to, and terribly disappointed in because at this point he's not showing signs of any kind of psychokinetic powers, just plays morose and depressed and angsty for most of the show, and then has a headache a lot. He starts to get interesting about midway through when he starts fighting the video cassettes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when he starts learning, which I thought that was cool. And he didn't just watch one. He's obsessively watching every one. Right. He gets a little interesting, and then they kill him.
Right. Like, just when I was starting to become a fan of his and I was starting to turn a corner, he gets killed by his father.
Yeah, well, it's comic-based stuff, so who knows if he's coming back.
This is true. No one's ever truly dead in comics except for Uncle Ben.
Exactly. And I like the villains here, because actually the villains were different. Most of the villains were parents.
Yeah.
And having jobs, so, like, you had there were different variations of different types of parents, but they still were, at their core, villains, but they, like, the one who played the Fiddler was a much more caring and, I guess you could say, empathic mother.
Yeah.
Than, let's say, Sportsmaster and Tigress, but they still love their daughter.
I was going to say, but, like, Sportsmaster and Tigress are, like, every, like, involved sports, psychotic sports parent I know. Yeah,
but I'm saying, like, she was more empathic to her son's issues, but still, her solution to him is, he's like, well, they pick on me for what I used, I play the tuba. She's like, people picked on your grandfather too. Well, when he played the fiddle, how did he get over it? Oh, he rammed the thing he took the bow and rammed it in their ear and made them deaf. He beat the hell out of them. That's how you do it. So, meanwhile, the Sportsmaster Tigers are already telling their daughter to beat the hell out of people, but that's just their general.
I got a kick out of Sportsmaster. It's the silliest superpower I've ever seen, and this is another one where I don't know how old that character is.
Oh, it is a 40s character. I think one of the reasons they used him, besides the fact that he was a JSA villain, is that he's been used to good success on the Young Justice animated series.
Okay.
If you watch that, he is a mainstay villain of that show.
Okay, well, that answers that question, but I also think he's a very easy character to pull off on live television.
Well, yeah, you just need sports equipment. He's basically an evil, updated Casey Jones from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from the 90s.
Right, so there's a part of me as I watch this show that has to take a deep breath and go, these are old characters, these are going to be... I don't if we're doing Silver Age or not here, but these are going to be old, silly characters that they're going to have to try to work. And that's kind of the charm of the show, is that they are old, silly characters, but they do make them work. Like Icicle, for example. Like, they made him basically a normal guy. Just he has this power and he has this background from, having been having been from Norway. And... again, his whole thing is, I just want to make Blue Valley and then the world a better place. And other than the killing people, possibly, that's what his agenda was.
Yeah, he was doing this because his wife died. I mean, it's basically a variation on the Punisher.
Right.
His wife died. He first went out and killed everyone involved with that.
And then
he went to make the world better so that wouldn't happen to anyone else.
Right. Like, again, I love the villains like Thanos and Icicle and and others where they're motivated in part by something noble. They just take it to a degree that you can't live within society. It's immoral.
Yeah, it's like you were good up until this point. We agree with you that like Beth says in the what you read in the manifesto. I'm good with this part. She's like, I like all this. This is good.
Right.
It's just now we're getting to the point like, oh, and now you go into the crazy.
So I enjoyed the presentation of the villains. I enjoyed that they weren't getting along either, that they had different agendas, and that they ended up they killed the magician at one point and his son, which was a hard... Yeah, and the Fiddler gets killed. I mean, this was these... Not the Fiddler part, but when they killed the magician and his son, that was heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah, that poor kid.
That's a rough scene.
Yeah.
And I have to say, there's not... When I think back of, watching Arrow, there weren't too many... occasionally it would happen in The Flash, occasionally it would happen in Supergirl, but for the most part, when I watch a CW show, I don't get emotionally... too emotionally upset. I don't have the wind knocked out of me when I watch these shows. A lot of it I kind of see coming, or I'm it doesn't move me emotionally. I'm interested, but I don't I don't have that oh my god reaction when they kill the kid. I had that
Oh,
oh my
yeah.
god reaction. Like, and that's what I said. Like, other than Legends of Tomorrow, I love this show. I can't believe how good it is.
Yeah, no, I was I've been very impressed with the show. I really enjoyed it, and they really went out of their way to definitely follow the comics more, but also to go their own way a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But still, they're all like pretty much everything in there is from the comics. Virtually every character is a real comics character. Many of them going back to the Golden Age.
Mm-hmm.
So I do dig that, like Sir Justin.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about a lot of characters
His actually
here.
storyline like that is in Stars and Stripes. I think it comes in the second half, but
Okay.
he is there. So once I saw the name Justin, I remembered that. I was like, oh, don't tell me they're going to do Sir Justin. And they did. I couldn't believe that.
They really let like Jeff Johns and Greg Berlanti just have at it with this show. Like the CW just like here, Warner Brothers blank check, do whatever you want, because like this doesn't feel like it was noted up by executives.
Yeah, and I believe James Robinson is also one of the writers, and like I said, he wrote Starman, which did a lot for the Golden Age characters at the time, and he was the co-writer of like the first 2 years or year and a half of the JSA series when it came back. So he definitely has a big thing for the Golden Age characters as well. So the fact that he's on it makes sense.
So speaking of silly villains, we have the Dragon King, who spends most of his time lurking in a basement,
Yes.
walking around a giant table, with his machinations. But more importantly, we have Meg DeLacy as Cindy, who is
Yes.
the teen queen.
She's basically the anti-Stargirl.
Yeah, in the beginning, she's presented as your typical high school bully. But that's the thing I like about this show. Everyone sort of starts off with sort of cookie cutter high school drama, Saved by the Bell kind of a thing, and then it all kind of unravels and evolves, and you get to know that Cindy is actually like this crazy mutant ninja with Wolverine claws.
Yeah, and almost as like an experiment.
Yeah.
Her father, as opposed to the other villains where they care about their kids for the most part. Even, I mean, obviously Brainwave not so much since he killed his son, but Dragon King cares about her even less. I mean, she's just an experiment to her, to him. I mean, he doesn't even care about like whatever mother is. Like, look, I just had this one as your mother, quote unquote. Just shut up and do what I need. Keep up the appearances so I can do what I need to do. If I can get rid of you, I would.
So there's that's most of the main cast here. Was there anybody else you wanted to talk about specifically before we take a look at some of the plot points?
I like what they did with the son, the brother Mike.
Yes,
because like I said, he really doesn't have much to do in the original series. He gets a little bit, and they kind of, like I said, he implied in the comic that he would have become Stripe, but it got canceled. So he starts off as just a typical dumb little kid, but I like some of the stuff they did. Like I liked him bonding with Barbara.
Yeah.
That he had bond with her, and by the time at the end of the series, he's like, "This is my dad." It's like I understand you're angry about being dragged away, yelling at what's her name again? Oh my god, I forgot, Courtney. But it's like, but that's my dad. You're taking my dad away, and like you're just you're shutting me out, and I don't feel like I'm part of this at all.
Yeah, he starts off as kind of like the usual annoying, gross kid brother, and then he really comes into his own as part of this family. And I have to say, the kid playing him has got some chops on him. There's no pitchy acting in this, which I really liked.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I didn't think about it, but you're right. They do all start off. Many of them start off as like these cookie cutter stereotype characters. I mean, in the very beginning, he could have been the annoying younger brother on any Disney teen show.
Yeah,
stick him in as the annoying younger brother, and he would just keep doing that kind of stuff throughout the entire series. I'm gonna do something stupid here. I'm gonna eat a lot of candy.
Right.
I'm gonna feed the dog the turkey.
Yeah, he starts off as like a character from Bunked, or Hey Jesse or something like that. Which one show led to the other, but
they evolve. They let him mature and evolve, and they do things with the character. They don't just keep it at the same one note.
Yes, and by the end he actually does something. I think he hits Icicle with the car.
Yes, he sort of smashes him with the car.
Which was a bit of a cheat, bit of a conceit, but I was like, whatever. It's one of those where it's such an overused thing in Hollywood now that I laugh every time I see it, and I don't want to. I don't want to criticize the show too much for what is clearly an ongoing gag in Hollywood.
Yeah, and they had to give him something to do anyway.
Sure. I suppose they didn't want to give him a gun. So this is 13 episodes, and I would say it's broken up into 3 parts. You have the filling out of characters and forming the new JSA is part 1. And then part 2 is unraveling the villain's plot. And then, part 3 is then trying to stop the villains from enacting their plan.
Yeah, actually becoming superheroes, not just playing at it.
Right. And they really don't even get to stopping the machine until the very last episode. At one point they're on the run. They're at Pat's cabin in the woods, hiding out from the JSA and all of that. By this point, the cat's out of the bag. Mom knows about Stargirl, yada, yada, yada. One of the things that happens in the show, and I like this, is they finally dealt with who her real father is, and they had played around with the idea that Sylvester was her dad, and they kept showing you this picture, and it looked awfully like that actor, and as it turns out, the way they wrote it is that it's not, and it was one of those where at first I was like, why didn't the mother just tell her that? That, this is who your father was, this is his name. Like, she kept it a big secret, and then as he says, he was like, you wrote me this email and then didn't respond to me, so I showed up. Like,
he's just some deadbeat dad guy.
Yeah,
he's nothing special. He's just some deadbeat guy who just ran out of his wife and kid.
I feel like they wanted there to be some mystery here and some drama within the mystery, but if Mom had this is one of those situations where one of those instances of kind of lazy writing that I don't like, where if characters would just talk to each other and be honest, there wouldn't, they wouldn't
half
get
the
into
problem
half
to go away.
Right. And so she's sitting there
plot
going...
of Lost, basically. If you people just talk to each other for 5 minutes, everything would have been fine.
Well, she has this picture of her dad, which you can barely make him out, and at any point, the mother could have said, once the cat was out of the bag, this guy in the picture that you say is Starman, that is your father... That's not him. I never banged this man.
Yeah. On the other hand, just to play devil's advocate, she wasn't going to believe it anyway. She didn't even believe it when her father showed up.
Mm-hmm.
So, while I will agree with you, yes. On the other hand, it really would have it might have just been, 2 or 3 episodes before they brought him in of them fighting over it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, do we need to have that? Maybe, maybe not.
It was heartbreaking, the drama. We took time out from being a superhero show when we were just dealing with a deadbeat dad and his daughter and how awful, some men are. They make terrible parents and whatnot. And it was definitely one of those moments of the show where I definitely felt bad for her. I didn't always feel bad for her, even when she was getting her ass kicked in the show. I felt bad there.
Yeah, but it definitely, and here's, like I said before, the thing I like about it is all that goes back to the other parts of the show, because this ends up with her and Pat becoming so much closer. He basically becomes dad to her as well by the end of that episode, and it affects everything they do going forward as Stargirl and Stripe. So it's all part of it. It's not like it has nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. It's all part of it. So that was fine for me. I was fine with that episode being more just the drama part.
Yeah, I'm okay with any of these shows focusing on the drama, as when it's done well. I don't know if it's always done well.
Yeah, if it's done well, and also I do prefer if it has something to do with it. I don't want just random characters that have nothing to do with it being the drama.
Mm-hmm. Anything else about this show that you feel like we need to talk about?
There's a lot of things to talk about. I like the chemistry. I like the chemistry between Courtney and what's her name? I forget the names of the characters now. Hold on. Shiv, Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that part, the Shiv 2 part, where Courtney's in bed hurt, and Cindy shows up to chat, and that's just so kind of creepy. Because she's just like staring at her this whole time, and Cindy just in the bed brings her chocolates and then starts eating them. And it's like, and you're sitting there going, does she know? Does she not know? Is she just this bitchy, or is she playing with her?
And she totally is playing with her. It really was a delicious scene. The actress does a great job of riding that line between manipulative and creepy. It's hilarious. And of course, Breck Basinger gives great reaction face. So she doesn't know what to do with this. She just knows that this girl who beat the shit out of her is in her room being nice to her now. And of course,
or is she being nice to her?
Right. And of course, it ends with, "I know you're Stargirl."
Yeah, and I do like the fact that sometimes they don't. A lot of times these shows, everything is. It's almost like Silver Age comics, where it's like everything is about the secret identity. You must protect the secret identity, even if you get your ass kicked. And here it's like, I'm going to throw you through a window now.
Yeah. I think everybody in town knows who Stargirl is.
At this point, yeah, it's got to be an open secret that there's superheroes running around.
Which, would make for an interesting season, too. Like, what do you do in a world full of superheroes? Which, the interesting thing about that is that this is a universe where superheroes had already existed. So this isn't the dawn of superheroes. This is the reemergence. And yeah. I'd like to see them play with that a little bit more. Maybe in class as a history lesson about the JSA or something like that.
Exactly, because if you had superheroes that are around since the 40s, they are part, and that's the only thing I had a little bit of an issue of. It's like, okay, I understand teenagers don't always pay attention to anything that happened before. If it's not their thing, they don't care. But I mean, if the JSA had only died 10 years ago and they've been around since the 40s, they are a part of this world. I mean, these kids had, at least when they were younger, had to have grown up with like JSA dolls or seeing them on TV or something. So the fact that no one had a clue who they were, it's like, were they really that secret? Are you trying to tell me that they did like the whole quote-unquote Batman thing and they were an urban legend for like 50, 60 years?
I also struggle with two of your members are the Flash and the Green Lantern, and like I can see Brainwave, having an effect on the stronger members of the JSA, but I mean that's quite the pair you've got there in the JSA. They wouldn't be so easy to take out, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to go with it. I'll be surprised. Not surprised. I'm interested to see if, because they have the lantern, but they don't have the ring. Yeah, as near as I can tell. There's this pen. I don't know what it does. I know that you said wait till they get to the pen.
Yeah. Do you want to or no?
No, that's fine. Okay. So I'm sure that's a powerful thing. And then, I'll be curious to see if there's a new Flash that comes about.
Yeah, I want to see. I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't want to be all that, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of the history. Yeah, more of how it comes. Because one thing I want to know is Pat from the 40s too, like he originally was. Mm-hmm. Because the original comic stuff, it was that the 7 Soldiers of Victory that he was a part of basically fought this thing and were split up in time. And were trapped in different periods of time, and by the time they were rescued, it was, 30 years later. Okay. So they came back into the future, basically. And so I'm wondering if maybe that's what happened to... I'm wondering if that's going to be what happened to them when he keeps talking about, oh, it was Stripesy. What was a different time? Well, was it the 40s?
Yeah. Because
that'd be kind of cool.
They make it seem like when all the characters died, it's the 40s, but then it's modern times, and it's like, well, that was 10 years ago. Then it's the 50s, which it isn't. They have cell phones.
Yeah. So I want to see. I'm curious about seeing that, and I am looking forward to more little cameos and things of surviving other superheroes, like Sir Justin, or if we're going to see any of the other members of the 7 Soldiers. Especially since, if you saw from that picture, they did tell us that yes, there is a Green Arrow there.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So I'm wondering who they would cast if we ever see him. Who will they cast? Will they be someone new, or is it going to be? Are they actually going to see if they can get what's his name back?
Maybe they'll get Robbie ML.
Is that a person? I have no idea.
Yes, it's his brother.
I was assuming that. Yeah. But yeah, maybe would they get Stephen Amell to play? Like, would they get him to play like a different version of Green Arrow? That could be amusing.
Yep, that's the fun thing about this show is that it exists on an entirely new Earth that they haven't really done much with yet. So they can do just about anything they want.
Exactly. They can get new actors or they can get old actors. They can get the same guy playing Jay Garrick to do flashback episodes as this Jay Garrick, the one that plays him on The Flash. Mm-hmm. The one from the original Flash TV show. Or they can get a whole brand new actor, whatever they want. Yep. But I'm curious to see the history of it and how it affects them more. I'm looking forward to... I want to see more... I want to see some more characters. Like I said, I want to see Jade show up. And Jakeem. Those are definitely 2 characters from the JSA legacy characters I would like to see show up.
Well, it's been, I think, renewed for season 2, so...
Yes.
So when season 2 comes out, as I told Chris, we'll do the second half of the series, and then you and I can come back and discuss season 2, and maybe you'll get your wish. You'll get more characters.
I'm hoping.
All right, I'll give you the last word here, kind of a summary. Anything else left unsaid that you've got a burning desire for, and then we're going to wrap up.
Well, no real burning desire. Just I do recommend the show if you didn't watch it. If you were just tired of the typical CW teen drama type show, this is definitely one of the best ones they've done. Definitely a lot more closer to the comics, I think. So if that's what you're looking for, it check it out. And if you do enjoy the teen drama type stuff, they still have it here, and it's really well done as well. So best of both worlds.
Yeah, this has probably been my favorite one since Legends of Tomorrow. It's a smartly written show with a really likable cast. It's not as melodramatic as The Flash tends to be, or and it's definitely not as brooding and as angsty as Arrow. Yeah,
no, I would say it's one of my 3 favorites right now are Legends of Tomorrow, because that's just balls out completely crazy, so I love that. Mm-hmm. This show and Black Lightning.
I have to get caught up on Black Lightning. I think I watched the first season of it, and I started watching the second. No, did I? I don't remember. Whatever season led into Crisis is the season I have to watch.
3.
Okay.
I just watched 2 and 3 over the summer over on Netflix, and I'm very happy I did. I enjoyed him a lot, and I like him a lot as Black Lightning. He is definitely Ceres Williams, I believe his name is. Mm-hmm. He's good. He's a lot of fun. He's a very likable person, so it's good. He's good. A good lead for that show. But yeah, those are the 3 I like the best. So,
all right, go ahead and plug your podcast.
All right, well, it's called Resurrections and Adam Warlock and Thanos Podcast. It's about the Marvel characters Adam Warlock and Thanos. I mean, you might not know Adam Warlock, but everyone knows who Thanos is. I think my mom knows who Thanos is right now. So, it's Thanos. So, but the comic version mostly. So check us out there. Just type in Adam Warlock or Thanos in any podcatcher you use, or you can follow us on Twitter at Adam Thanos Pod.
What you been working on recently? What part of the universe are you reading about?
We are doing a weekly miniseries that Jim Starlin did called Jim Starlin and Alan Davis did called The Infinity Entity.
Okay.
Which we started out reading it thinking it was kind of a placeholder, and as we are between 2 original Thanos graphic novels, because that's where it takes place. But as we're reading it, we're realizing there's more to it than we thought. So we're enjoying it more and more as we go.
Very cool. Well, as I said, myself and Chris Sheehan did the first 6 issues of Stars and Stripes last night on Source Material Live. Tomorrow, myself and the Podsman will review Clash of the Champions. And then in the evening, myself and Jesse Starshow will review the new BPMD album, American Made, which is covers. And then finally, to wrap up September, getting into October, myself and Andrew Graham will review Season 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll do a brief overview of the first 6 seasons, and then we'll dig into the finale season. I want to thank Al Sedano for hanging out with me. You don't get to do a lot of these shows, but when we do, you're always a pleasure to have. Very knowledgeable, so appreciate that.
Oh, thanks. These are fun to do. I enjoy them.
Great. All right. Until then, for the TV Party Tonight podcast, for Al Sedano, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.